Electronic Arts, Inc., also known as Each Games, is an American developer, marketer, publisher and distributor of video games headquartered in Redwood City, California. Founded and incorporated on May 28, 1982 by Trip Hawkins, the company was a pioneer of the early home computer games industry and was notable for promoting the designers and programmers responsible for its games. In 2011, Electronic Arts was the world's third-largest gaming company by revenue after Nintendo and Activision Blizzard. Currently, Each develops and publishes games under several labels including Each sports titles FIFA, Madden NFL, NHL, NCAA football, NBA Live, and SSX. Other Each labels produce established franchises such as Battlefield, Need for Speed, The Sims, Medal of Honor, Command & Conquer, as well as newer franchises such as Crysis, Dead Space, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Army of Two, Titanfall and Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, produced in partnership with LucasArts. Each also owns and operates major gaming studios, Each Tiburon in Orlando, Each Canada in Burnaby, BioWare in Edmonton as well as Montreal, and DICE in Sweden. History: the company began developing games in-house and supported consoles by the early 1990s. Each later grew via acquisition of several successful developers. By the early 2000s, Each had become one of the world's largest third-party publishers. On May 4, 2011, Each reported $3.8 billion in revenues for the fiscal year ending March 2011, and on January 13, 2012, Each announced that it had exceeded $1 billion in digital revenue during the previous calendar year. In a note to employees, Each CEO John Riccitiello called this an incredibly important milestone for the company. Each began to move toward direct distribution of digital games and services with the acquisition of the popular online gaming site Pogo.com in 2001. In 2009, Each acquired the London-based social gaming startup Playfish, and in June 2011, Each launched Origin, an online service to sell downloadable games directly to consumers. In July 2011, Each announced that it had acquired PopCap Games, the company behind hits such as Plants vs. Zombies and Bejeweled. Each continued its shift toward digital goods in 2012, folding its mobile-focused Each Interactive division into other organizations throughout the company. Specifically those divisions led by Each label's president Frank Gibeau, Peter Moore, and CTO Rajat Taneja, and DVP of Digital Christian Segastrail, 1982 to 1991. In February 1982, Trip Hawkins arranged a meeting with Don Valentine of Sequoia Capital to discuss financing his new venture, Amazon Software. Valentine encouraged Hawkins to leave Apple Inc., in which Hawkins served as director of product marketing, and allowed Hawkins use of Sequoia Capital's spare office space to start the company. On May 28, 1982, Trip Hawkins incorporated and established the company with a personal investment of an estimated $200,000. 7 months later, in December 1982, Hawkins secured $2 million of venture capital from Sequoia Capital, Kleiner Perkins Caulfield and Byers, and Seven Rosen Funds. For more than 7 months, Hawkins refined his Electronic Arts business plan. With aid from his first employee, Rich Melmon, the original plan was written, mostly by Hawkins, on an Apple II in Sequoia Capital's office in August 1982. During that time, Hawkins also employed 2 of his former staff from Apple, Dave Evans and Pat Marriott, as producers, and a Stanford MBA classmate, Jeff Burton from Atari, for international business development. The business plan was again refined in September and reissued on October 8, 1982. Between September and November, employee headcount rose to 11, including Tim Mott, Bing Gordon, David Maynard, and Steve Hayes. Having outgrown the office space provided by Sequoia Capital, the company relocated to a San Mateo office that overlooked the San Francisco Airport landing path. Headcount rose rapidly in 1983, including Don DeGlow, Richard Hillerman, Stuart Bonn, David Gardner, and Nancy Fong. He recruited his original employees from Apple, Atari, Xerox PARC, and VisiCorp, and got Steve Wozniak to agree to sit on the board of directors. Hawkins was determined to sell directly to buyers. Combined with the fact that Hawkins was pioneering new game brands, this made sales growth more challenging. Retailers wanted to buy known brands from existing distribution partners. After more flyers were handed out, former CEO Larry Probst arrived as VP of Sales in late 1984 and helped the company sustain growth into $18 million in its third full year. This policy of dealing directly with retailers gave each higher margins and better market awareness, key advantages the company would leverage to leapfrog its early competitors. In December 1986, David Gardner and Mark Lucaspace moved to the UK to open a European headquarters. Up until that point, publishing of Electronic Arts games, and the conversion of many of their games to compact cassette versions in Europe was handled by Ariolasoft. Most of the early employees of the company disliked the Amazon software name that Hawkins had originally chosen when he incorporated the company. While at Apple, Hawkins had enjoyed company off-site meetings at Payaro Dunes and organized such a planning off-site for each in October 1982. Hawkins had developed the ideas of treating software as an art form and calling the developers software artists. Hence, the latest version of the business plan had suggested the name Soft Art. However, Hawkins and Melmont knew the founders of Software Arts, the creators of VisiCalc, and thought their permission should be obtained. Dan Bricklin did not want the name used because it sounded too similar to Software Arts. However, the name concept was liked by all the attendees. Hawkins had also recently read a best-selling book about the film studio, United Artists, and liked the reputation that company had created. Early advisors Andy Berlin, Jeff Goodby, and Rich Silverstein were also fans of that approach, and the discussion was led by Hawkins and Berlin. Hawkins said everyone had a vote but they would lose it if they went to sleep. Hawkins liked the word electronic, and various employees had considered the phrases electronic artists and electronic arts. Other candidates included Gordon's suggestion of blue light, a reference from the Disney film Tron. When Gordon and others pushed for electronic artists, in tribute to the film company United Artists, Steve Hayes opposed, saying, "We're not the artists," meaning that the developers whose games each would publish were the artists. This statement from Hayes immediately tilted sentiment towards Electronic Arts and the name was unanimously endorsed. A novel approach to giving credit to its developers was one of EA's trademarks in its early days. This characterization was even further reinforced with EA's packaging of most of their games in the album cover, pioneered by each because Hawkins thought that a record album style would both save costs and convey an artistic feeling. Each routinely referred to their developers as artists, and gave them photo credits in the games and numerous full-page magazine ads. Each also shared lavish profits with their developers, which added to their industry appeal. Because of this novel treatment, each was able to easily attract the best developers. The square, album cover, boxes were a popular packaging concept by Electronic Arts, which wanted to represent their developers as rock stars. In the mid-1980s, Electronic Arts aggressively marketed products for the Commodore Amiga, a premier home computer of the late 1980s and early 1990s in Europe. Commodore had given each development tools and prototype machines before Amiga's actual launch. For Amiga, each published some notable non-game titles. A drawing program, Deluxe Paint, and its subsequent versions became perhaps the most famous piece of software available for Amiga platform. Other Amiga programs released by each included Deluxe Music Construction Set, Deluxe Paint Animation, and Instant Music. Some of them, most notably Deluxe Paint, were ported also for other platforms. For Macintosh platform, each released a black-and-white animation tool called Studio 1, and a series of Paint titles called Studio 8 and Studio 32. In 1988, each published a flight simulator game exclusively for Amiga, FA-18 Interceptor, which received attention due to its vector graphics that were notable for 1988 standards. Another significant Amiga release was Populous, developed by Bullfrog Productions. It was a hugely influential, pioneering title in the genre that is called God games. In 1990, Electronic Arts began producing console games for the Nintendo Entertainment System, after previously licensing its computer games to other console game publishers. Eventually, Trip Hawkins left Teach to found the now-defunct 3DO company. 2000-2007. Each is currently headquartered in the Redwood Shores neighborhood of Redwood City, California. Following the retirement and departure of Trip Hawkins in 2000, each decided to replace its logo with a new one, and Larry Probst took over the reins. In 2004, each made a multi-million-dollar donation to fund the development of game production curriculum at the University of Southern California's Interactive Media Division. On February 1, 2006, Electronic Arts announced that it would cut worldwide staff by 5%. On June 20, 2006, each purchased Mythic Entertainment, who finished making Warhammer Online, after Sega's ESPN NFL 2K5 successfully grabbed market share away from EA's dominant Madden NFL series during the 2004 holiday season. Each responded by making several large sports licensing deals, which include an exclusive agreement with the NFL, and in January 2005, a 15-year deal with ESPN. The ESPN deal gave each exclusive first rights to all ESPN content for sports simulation games. On April 11, 2005, each announced a similar 6-year licensing deal with the Collegiate Licensing Company for exclusive rights to college football content. Much of EA's success, both in terms of sales and with regards to its stock market valuation, is due to its strategy of platform-agnostic development and the creation of strong multi-year franchises. Each was the first publisher to release yearly updates of its sports franchises: Madden, FIFA, NHL, NBA Live, Tiger Woods, etc., with updated player rosters and small graphical and gameplay tweaks. Recognizing the risk of franchise fatigue among consumers, each announced in 2006 that it would concentrate more of its effort on creating new original intellectual property. In September 2006, Nokia and each announced a partnership in which each becomes an exclusive major supplier of mobile games to Nokia mobile devices through the Nokia Content Discoverer. In the beginning, Nokia customers were able to download 7 each titles on the holiday season in 2006. Rick Simonson is the executive vice president and director of Nokia, and starting from 2006 is affiliated with John Riccitiello and Partners. 2007 to 2013. In February 2007, Probst stepped down from the CEO job while remaining on the board of directors. His hand-picked successor is John Riccitiello, who had worked at each for several years previously, departed for a while, and then returned. Riccitiello previously worked for Elevation Partners, Sara Lee and PepsiCo. In June 2007, new CEO John Riccitiello announced that each would reorganize itself into 4 labels. each with responsibility for its own product development and publishing. The goal of the reorganization was to empower the labels to operate more autonomously, streamline decision-making, increase creativity and quality, and get games into the market faster. This reorganization came after years of consolidation and acquisition by each of smaller studios, which some in the industry blamed for a decrease in quality of each titles. In 2008, at the DICE Summit, Rick Citiello called the earlier approach of buy and assimilate a mistake, often stripping smaller studios of its creative talent. Rick Citiello said that the city-state model allows independent developers to remain autonomous to a large extent, and cited Maxis and BioWare as examples of studios thriving under the new structure. Also, in 2007, each announced that it would be bringing some of its major titles to the Macintosh. Each has released Battlefield 2142, Command & Conquer, Tiberium Wars, Crysis, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Madden NFL 08, Need for Speed, Carbon and Spore for the Mac. All of the new games have been developed for the Macintosh using Cider, a technology developed by Transgaming that enables Intel-based Macs to run Windows games inside a translation layer running on Mac OS X. They are not playable on PowerPC-based Macs. In October 2007, each purchased Supercomputer International, a long-standing industry provider of game server hosting for development studios, who were currently developing the new PlayLink software. A week later they then purchased VG Holding Corp., the parent company of BioWare and Pandemic Studios. It was revealed in February 2008 that Electronic Arts had made a takeover bid for rival game company Take-Two Interactive. After its initial offer of $25 per share, all-cash stock transaction offer was rejected by the Take-Two board. Each revised it to $26 per share, a 64% premium over the previous day's closing price, and made the offer known to the public. Rumors had been floating around the internet prior to the offer about Take-Two possibly being bought over by a bigger company, albeit with Viacom as the potential bidder. In May 2008, each announced that it will purchase the assets of Hands On Mobile Korea, a South Korean mobile game developer and publisher. The company will become each Mobile Korea. In September 2008, each dropped its buyout offer of Take-Two. No reason was given. Each also confirmed the departure of Kathy Vrabeck, who was given the position as former president of the Each Casual division in May 2007. Each made this statement about the merger. "We've learned a lot about casual entertainment in the past 2 years, and found that casual gaming defies a single genre and demographic." With the retirement and departure of Kathy Vrabeck, each is reorganizing to integrate casual games, development and marketing, into other divisions of our business. We are merging our casual studios, Hasbro partnership, and casual marketing organization with the Sims label to be a new Sims and casual label, where there is a deep compatibility in the product design, marketing and demographics. In the days and weeks ahead, we will make further announcements on the reporting structure for the other businesses in the casual label, including each mobile, Pogo, media sales and online casual initiatives. Those businesses remain growth priorities for each and deserve strong support in a group that will complement their objectives. This statement comes a week after each announced it was laying off 6%, about 600 of their staff positions, and had a $310 million net loss for the quarter. Due to the 2008 economic crisis, Electronic Arts had a poorer than expected 2008 holiday season, moving it in February 2009 to cut approximately 1,100 jobs, which it said represented about 11% of its workforce. It also closed 12 of their facilities. Rick Citiello, in a conference call with reporters, stated that their poor performance in the fourth quarter was not due entirely to the poor economy, but also to the fact that they did not release any blockbuster titles in the quarter. In the quarter ending December 31, 2008, the company lost $641 million. As of early May 2009, the subsidiary studio each Redwood Shores was known as Visceral Games. On June 24, 2009, each announced it will merge two of its development studios, BioWare and Mythic, into one single role-playing video game and MMO development powerhouse. The move will actually place Mythic under control of BioWare, as Ray Muica and Greg Zeshuk will be in direct control of the new entity. By fall 2012, both Muica and Zeshuk had chosen to depart the merged entity in a joint retirement announcement. On November 9, 2009, each announced its acquisition of social casual games developer Playfish for $275 million. On the same day, the company announced layoffs of 1,500 employees, representing 17% of its workforce, across a number of studios including each Tiburon, Visceral Games, Mythic and each Black Box. Also affected were projects and support activities that, according to Chief Financial Officer Eric Brown, don't make economic sense, resulting in the shutdown of popular communities such as Battlefield News at the Wayback Machine and the Each community team at the Wayback Machine. These layoffs also led to the complete shutdown of Pandemic Studios. In October 2010, each announced the acquisition of UK-based iPhone and iPad games publisher Chalingo for $20 million in cash. Chalingo published the popular Angry Birds for iOS and Cut the Rope for all platforms, but the deal did not include those properties. So Cut the Rope became published by ZeptoLab, and Angry Birds became published by Rovio Entertainment. 2013 present on March 18, 2013. Each CEO John Riccitello has announced that he would be stepping down as a CEO and a member of the board of directors on March 30, 2013. Larry Probst was also appointed executive chairman on the same day. In April 2013, each announced a reorganization which was to include dismissal of 10% of their workforce, consolidation of marketing functions which were distributed among the 5 label organizations, and subsumption of Origin operational leadership under the president of labels. In September 2013, Andrew Wilson was appointed the CEO of each. In April 2015, each announced that it would be shutting down various free-to-play games in July of that year, including Battlefield Heroes, Battlefield Play for Free, Need for Speed World, and FIFA World. During E3 2015, Vice President of the company, Patrick Soderlund, announced that the company will start investing more on smaller titles such as Unravel so as to broaden the company's portfolio. On December 10, 2015, each announced a new division called Competitive Gaming Division, which focuses on creating competitive game experience and organizing esports events. It is headed by Peter Moore.